What's going on? You're in the Beat Sessions, the place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's talk about The National. They're back for the second time this year, along with Paul the Mannequin Head, and this new album, Laugh Track. They released that on September 18th. This is studio album number 10 for the band, and their follow-up to First Two Pages of Frankenstein, which they released back in April, and which, as it stands, is the top album of 2023 here on the Beat Sessions. I love that record from start to finish. The continuity of the album, the meticulous production, the way that all the compositions explore these shifts and textures. It's really just a marvelous project. But there's also 6 months left and plenty of albums that can give that project a run for its money. And I think Laugh Track is one of those records. These last two projects are fascinating. If you're familiar with this band, they are a band that has a reputation for agonizing over the most minute details, which can be a good thing. I mean, it oftentimes probably leads to disruption in the recording sessions, but ultimately we have a band here that has set a very high bar for what rock and roll is, for what alternative rock is, whatever it is that they're exploring. I want to kind of lead off with some of the criticism of both of these projects. And First Two Pages of Frankenstein in particular, a handful of people that said the affair was dull, that they were getting bored with digging through the recesses of Matt's dark mind. And, to a certain degree, I can understand that. But, there's two big things at play. COVID was one, a big gap in between records, putting out First Two Pages in Frankenstein. And if you read about this band, this is a band that, they started going in their different directions, working on different projects. And, there was a lot of people that thought these guys might not get back together and make music. So First Two Pages of Frankenstein, it's an album that at its core I feel is about this band recovering. It's about Matt coming out of that funk that he found himself in. And more than COVID, I think that was the biggest issue with this outfit is your frontman, your lyricist, has writer's block and he's struggling to put down anything on paper. And so you talk about the meticulous nature with which, all of these individuals approach the recording process. These albums are loose, and Laugh Track in particular is probably the loosest album that the National has put out to date, which makes it a fun project, makes it interesting, doesn't make it, the best record that they've ever put out, but it's cool to just kind of see them, I guess, in the aftermath of First Two Pages of Frankenstein, kind of build their own little Frankenstein out of pieces of songs that were left over from the recording sessions. We have Weird Goodbyes on this record, which is very cool. The band talks about how that song, didn't have a home. So the creation of this record, it's a great project for that reason. And, this album as well, I love the way it finishes too. There's a lot of people that wanted more of a rock and roll feel in reading criticism and reviews of this album and First Two Pages. A lot of people that were, really geared up for something a little heavier, a little more in your face for that live experience. Smoke Detector is a really cool song. It's a song that, was basically just put together during a sound check. And, the compositions on this record that weren't started during those recording sessions for First Two Pages, it's material that was tried out during live shows. They had a chance to really dial this stuff in on an organic level, let's call it that. And so, if you find these two records to be a little slow, I understand that, but sometimes that's just the nature of an album. And we were talking about Pretenders earlier in the week with Relentless. That's an album that I love that record. Are there moments when it feels a little slow? Yeah, but no piece of art is perfect. And I'm feeling that with these two projects. For their shortcomings, there's so much here to love that it's hard to really, I guess, rest any type of integrity on that negativity. This is an outfit that I love that Brian is working more on Laugh Track than he was on First Two Pages. I think a lot of people were arguing that he was suffering from Jimmy Chamberlain syndrome. So, big presence of the electronic drum element on First Two Pages. I love that Brian is doing his thing more on Laugh Track, and he is really driving a lot of these compositions in a very entertaining way. So if you were hoping for more of that, that's definitely a plus to Laugh Track. One of the things that I really enjoyed about the record. And just, again, it feels like it's got a little more energy. It's a little lighter. It doesn't feel like this particular project is that album where Matt is pulling himself out of those recesses, kind of like first two pages. So I like that. It almost, call it a companion piece, call it what you will, but it feels like, you found yourself in this spot with first two pages, and you can feel them building off of that. And ultimately, I feel like with Smoke Detector finishing this record, it doesn't feel like it belongs on this album. But I think that I think it's this band's way of signaling that they're okay, and that they've found this new piece as far as working with each other and creating art. But I think if you were anticipating more of a rock and roll feel based on Smoke Detector, it might be coming on the next record. But let's get into this track run right here. It's kicking off with Alphabet City, like the pulsating synth to open. You get these like frenzied muted guitar, vocal comes in with that, and then second guitar comes in and mimics the synth that's at play on this song. You get these. There's a few moments on this record where I'm feeling the influence of Eastern strings, and I really like the way the strings come in on this song. They work in and out as the percussion builds. Matt's baritone is just gorgeous on this song. I really love the coda of this track. Great way to open things up. Into Deep End, Paul's in Pieces, your second song. We can probably guess who Paul is, as they're galloping drums to lead this thing off. Light new wave guitars. I really like the feel of this track. Lots of texture as well. It's a nice change in tempo coming off of Alphabet City, a little pickup in the energy. I love the little synth element that's at play on this song. Again, you're getting more of those Eastern strings that work in about halfway through. And coda, I like the way that it rises in intensity. And, you talk about those shifts in texture that I mentioned with first two pages. Well, a lot of that going on with Laugh Track as well. And, it's the compositions, those people arguing that they're slower, I'd say that that's where you really just need to take the time to listen, to let these things unfold. You can't just rush through everything. You can't just like bludgeon it head on, and this is not that kind of art. So, if you found yourself just not feeling it, I definitely would encourage you to give both of these projects a couple more listens. Give them another chance to unfold and for you to hear some of those nuances. Weird Goodbyes featuring Bon Iver. I think we've all heard this song, electro beat, piano, baritone coming in strong. I really like Matt's voice here. And the contrast of their voices is great too, but nice build in the instrumentation. The melodies are gentle. I like the arpeggiated acoustic riff on this song. Brilliant synths that back off there in the middle. And yeah, once again, great harmonies on this song. Turn Off the House is your fourth track. Arpeggiated riff and simple percussion create this really mysterious air. I like the feel of this song. Light electro build. Percussion builds into this breakbeat element that's interesting. Guitars emerge in this song nicely. It's a fun tune. Dreaming, your fifth song. Light guitar wash and vocal. Drums enter at about 40 seconds on this thing and then back off, and then it builds back with this light hit. I love this lyric. You personalize everything, everyone's emotions. It's always about you. It's a pretty, I love that lyric. That lyric really just resonated hard with me as far as the state of the world and the way that a lot of people approach life. It's not about you, unfortunately. There's a lot more at play in the world, more often than not, especially working as a bartender, working in the service industry. See it a lot, the frailty, especially when people get like hangry and they need a bite of food in their system. Oh man, it gets weird sometimes. But I appreciate Matt calling out the world for that frailty. It's something that I find very frustrating, the pedestal that individuals place themselves on sometimes. It's not a good place to be more often than not. Let me see here, sixth song, Laugh Track, featuring Phoebe Bridgers, muted element here. Simple piano ushers in this pretty Americana track. I like the slow burn of this thing. I like the way that Phoebe's light voice lifts Matt's. It's a really nice contrast there in the harmonies. Space Invader, your seventh song, acoustic riff, got the simple electric light guitar that comes in to complement. Like 45 seconds in, you get this light piano and then a shift with the percussion. It's a really, really cool moment in the song. What if I'd never written the letter I slipped in the sleeve of the record I gave you? Man, that line, there's these little kind of just like moments where it's like you're reading Matt's diary, or if he's reading it for you or singing it, so to speak. But that line right there, I remember an ex-girlfriend that did that one time, and I didn't find the note in the sleeve of the record. until after we'd broken up. It was this really weird moment, like 2 years after the relationship, where I found this note and just I immediately thought of that moment when I heard that line. And it's Matt's ability to do that as a lyricist that really he's so special for that reason. And I just couldn't help but highlight that line. I thought it was pretty damn good. Hornets, your eighth song. Wash slowly builds. You get two guitars and this just another gorgeous Americana arrangement. I really like this song a lot. It's gonna hit you the arrangement after about 2 minutes. I love the way that it sounds like a banjo that rolls in. You got these horns that work in at the end. It's a fun track. Coat on a Hook is your ninth song. Like the illustration there. Don't leave me hanging like a party on a coat, like a coat on a hook. It's a cool little analogy there. Electro drums and light melodies. Guitars are really pretty on this song. Great build-in with the percussion. It's gonna lead into your 10th track, Tour Manager. Got these light electronics, simple, gentle guitar that enters, and then Matt doing his thing. Drums continue to build on this song. It's a pretty simple composition, but I dig the way that you're able to just get such an atmospheric feel to this thing with very little. Another thing that this band does very well. Your penultimate track, Crumble, featuring Roseanne Cash. Man, she sounds great with Matt on this song. And this track is immediate right out of the gate, acoustic and electric guitars, got this brooding mood. The drums hit to usher in that harmony with Roseanne. And again, it's definitely a highlight of this track. Pretty strings that work in, got a solo in the coda to finish this thing off. And then your final track, Smoke Detector. This is my favorite song on the record. This song, I just did not expect this. You got this arpeggiated riff to open, like the rhythm hits together, and then just a big post-punk vibe for like 7 minutes and 30 seconds. These guys just doing their thing, rocking out. It's a very interesting number. And again, it doesn't feel like it fits on this track list, but it's a pretty loose track list. I don't think that, while they're making an album here, that the focus on continuity, the way that it's been there for other albums, was necessarily a big concern for them. So yeah, like, why not tack it on at the end? Why not maybe signal, to your audience what is to come? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, who knows? But I do know that this is another solid effort from these guys. And I like that, you have this leftover material from these very productive sessions, from these sessions that saw this band, find its identity again, a really important moment for them. And so while it's not the greatest material that they've put out, I like this phase of the band, this, coming back together, this coming back to life and hitting the refresh button and establishing where it is that we want to move into the future. Sometimes you need a record to do that. And these are two great records to do that. Laugh Track, I don't like a fence sitter, so I'm going to say it. I liked it more than First Two Pages of Frankenstein. For the weaknesses, for some of the stuff that I pointed out, I think it's just such a fun, lighthearted effort. And I think you get to see this band in a way that you've really never had a chance to experience them on record. And that's really damn cool. So we're going to vinyl please this thing. Unfortunately, the vinyl doesn't come out, I think, until like November. So we're going to have to wait. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy streaming this thing and hope you find this review helpful. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help us blow this project up in 2023, and stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.